Hi, I'm TJ Jones, the host of the State of the Saints podcast, and I ask that you like, share, and comment on this video. Thanks for watching. All I gotta say is, who dat?
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. And on this edition, we're going to be talking about Saints quarterback Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston decided to come back in 2023 to the New Orleans Saints, restructuring his contract, and shocked a lot of people. And for the first time since the contract, he had opportunity to speak to the media, and we're going to be breaking that down. We're going to be talking about him being a starting quarterback in the National Football League, because it has been a topic of conversation. But thank you to all those that have filed in. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody listening, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. But let's go ahead and get into it. Jameis Winston talked to the media after practice on Tuesday. And, the question was about him, looking at himself as a starting quarterback in the league. Of course, Jameis Winston has been with the New Orleans Saints going into his fourth season. And we all know that the Saints decided that they wanted to sign Derek Carr in the offseason to be that starting quarterback. But of course, Jameis Winston still believes in himself, and he still believes he has what it takes to lead a team.
Well, the main thing is the opportunity, and I'm just grateful every chance I get an opportunity to step in a building and be able to play a sport that I love. However, I know that I'm still a starting quarterback in this league. But man, I have to be like, this is all a process, it's some Hall of Famers that made their big break at 30, so I'm still young, I'm still 29, but right now my role is to serve this team in the role that I'm in. And I'm all in into doing that, man, because, again, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to still wear a Saints uniform or to be in the NFL in general.
So as you can see, he's very humble. But he still believes in himself, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of people were shocked, including myself, that Jameis Winston came back to the New Orleans Saints in 2023. But, it just shows you where his head is at as far as where he wants to be. Look, regardless to Jameis coming out saying saying things that he had heard people say about him, the guy hears it. He hears what a lot of, onlookers and critics say about him as a quarterback. You got people out here that can't throw a party, couldn't throw a parade, couldn't throw beads off a Mardi Gras float. But yet they're sitting here criticizing this guy and talk about him playing the quarterback position. People have two left feet, couldn't do the cha-cha slide in a party line. But yet they want to criticize this man's footwork. Couldn't hit the back of a barn door, but questioning this guy's accuracy. That's the issue that I have with this, right? Now, you have some people that are using these narratives that they have about Jameis Winston, and honestly, they are using narratives that they have heard people say over and over and over again. My biggest issue with this is everybody, for the most part, who has been skeptical and reluctant about this guy and being a starting quarterback is getting their information and their thoughts and their views from the time that he played in Tampa. Because I can tell you, based on what the New Orleans Saints had outside of him, like it wasn't that terrible, right? I think that he played his best ball in a Saints uniform. And I do believe strongly that this guy should be the starting quarterback somewhere, not the starting quarterback of the Saints, because I feel like that ship has sailed. And honestly, if Jameis Winston does become the starting quarterback of the Saints, it means something has happened to Derek Carr. And I just think that Dennis Allen wanted his guy, which is fair. Regardless to if you believe Jameis Winston got the short end of the stick or not, he was not Dennis Allen's guy. Just like a lot of the coaches were not Dennis Allen's guys. Those were not the guys that he wanted on his staff. They were layover guys. And I can understand that Dennis Allen wanted to go in a different direction. But I want people to understand, just because Dennis Allen decides to go in a different direction does not mean that there's not a place in the National Football League for Jameis Winston. There's still a place for him. I just feel like some bad luck has happened with Jameis over the last couple of years. And you have individuals out here that have been talking about how bad he has been, and they are trying to take it any way they can. So they rather believe that Jameis Winston doesn't have what it takes to lead the New Orleans Saints, even though they have seen this dude play pretty well until he was injured. They rather take that and be like, okay, I said he was bad and he bad, right? But in reality, the guy hasn't really shown everything he can do because it's been unfortunate and he's been dealing with some injuries. But I do feel like Jameis Winston is going to go somewhere else. And honestly, I would not be shocked if he ends up going to another team by the end of this season. Like, seriously, I don't know how true that is, but there are some teams out there that may acquire the services of Jameis Winston. It's kind of the same situation that happened with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater was, in New York playing for the Jets, had a really good, solid preseason, and all of a sudden, the Saints made a trade for him. And as you can see, it paid dividends for the Saints because Drew Brees went down, Teddy B came in, and Teddy B won 5 straight games as a starting quarterback. Now, you got to add, it's a team effort, of course, but he still was the starting quarterback of those 5 games. So to say that, Jameis Winston can't be a starting quarterback, Jameis Winston can't lead a team, I just think that just individuals out here just trying to hate on a man, right? I just honestly feel that way. And I just think that this is not an indication of who he is as a quarterback because the Saints decided to go with Derek Carr. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that Dennis Allen wanted to do things his way. And you also have to understand that Dennis Allen is basically on borrowed time. Like, if he doesn't perform this season, then, his neck is on the line. The Who Dat Nation is going to want this guy out of here. So I can't blame him because if I'm on my way out, I want to go down with a blaze of glory. I want to do it my way, right? I want to do it the way that I want to do it. So if I fail, then at least I know I did everything I possibly can to not fail, right? And unfortunately, Jameis isn't in those plans. So Jameis Winston, to me, has a place in the National Football League. I just hope that, he can heal up. And I just hope that all the white noise and all the negativity over the last few years, does not stop a team from picking this guy up, because I just feel for the most part, a lot of people aren't looking at Jameis and aren't showing him like the respect or giving him second chances, as you will see some of these other quarterbacks get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. Is because you got a lot of the talking heads that have been telling us year after year after year how terrible this guy is, or how, goofy he is, or how he plays the quarterback position, or how he constantly make mistakes. And it's just human nature, right? If you hear something over and over again and somebody beat it into your head, eventually, like, you're going to start to believe it. And you know what I'm saying? And honestly, those that don't, they might end up being in the minority. But I just hope that this isn't the case, because I've seen very, very, very terrible quarterback play from quarterbacks, but they still continuously get opportunities. Jameis Winston, to me, deserves to get a shot and continue to get a shot as long as he has the skills that he possessed, the arm talent that he possessed, and a confidence that he possessed. I think that he deserves to get, an opportunity. I just don't understand it. Like, you see some of these other quarterbacks out here, you know these guys aren't good. Like, they're terrible. And yet they still get opportunities to perform and play on other teams, right? Rather as a backup, rather the starting quarterback comes in comes this guy. Like, man, I didn't even know this guy was in the league. Man, this guy threw more picks than Razor Ramon. Like, we see all these different things. And yet these guys still get opportunities, but yet we start talking about Jameis Winston. We act as if he's just a poster boy for bad quarterback play and poster boy for suck. I just don't understand it. If you're not a Jameis Winston fan, that's fine. But what you have is a lot of people who may not like the guy, right? And they are trying to find everything they possibly can to try to beat down on the dude. I'm not trying to do that. It may not be in the best interest of the team that you root for, but to say that this guy does not deserve to be in the National Football League or get opportunity to be a starter, I just think that that's wrong. I just think that that is narratives that are being carried, and, individuals that may never like the guy and never believed in him. Like, I just don't understand how anybody can believe that this guy could be a starter somewhere and win some games. I mean, that's just the way I feel about it. TJ, do you think Jameis ends up getting used as trade pieces for Winfro or another player? Hate to see him go and really wish J-Bo could have resurrected his career with us and won a chip. Well, look, I think that he can be used as at trade value. Do I think that he can be? I think it all depends. I think I think that teams are always willing to do business. I do look at a team, like the Raiders, who are dealing with the issue with Jimmy Garoppolo, not passing a physical, him having to, sign a waiver. I'm pretty sure they'll probably be trying to look for a quarterback, if things don't pan out with Jimmy G. There's some other teams that around things happen in training camp, the phone may ring. Now, does that mean that the Saints may indeed answer the phone and be willing to trade him? No, that's not a guarantee. But I just think that if something is appealing, you're going to listen. And if they can use him, for that reason, then, if it means making the team better and it's giving Jameis opportunity to be a starting quarterback and to play out the season with a team, I'll be rooting for him. I'll be rooting for him. But I don't think that's the primary focus of the Saints. I don't think the Saints woke up this morning and Mickey Loomis was like, man, let's see if we can trade Jameis Winston. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. And honestly, I know some people feel like, it can be a little bit of lip service, a guy saying, man, I'm just trying to be here for my team. Some guys that you see and you hear them talking and you're like, man, that's just lip service. I really honestly believe that Jameis Winston wants to be here for the Saints and be there for his teammates. This guy had every reason to leave. I mean, he had to believe and know in his heart that he will never get that fair shake, that fair opportunity to be a starting quarterback after how things transpired last season with the Andy Dalton situation. But yet he is still there. And he was also on the sidelines, being real animated, rooting for his teammates, patting guys on the back, helping, Andy Dalton. If Andy Dalton make a mistake, or helping Andy Dalton see certain things. Like, he's always was encouraging guys. And I don't think that's fake. And I don't think that's phony. I think that that's really who he is as a person. And, when a guy in the midst of a situation, they can easily just be upset and go to the tabloids. And I'm pretty sure, look, Jameis Winston, regardless of how you may feel about him or not, he has something to say, and people want to hear it. Like, so he could have went out there and went rogue and got on somebody's podcast and talked about how the Saints just unfairly treated him or whatever, and people would have listened. And in some cases, even the little snippet that we heard from Mike Triplett and Nick Underhill, like we were ready to, go to the Superdome and stuff like that and trying to turn that into controversy. So imagine if this guy just kind of sat down and did a tell-all, like people would listen to what he is saying. They would listen to what he is actually doing, and they would be receptive of that. But he never did that. He never did it. He stood on the sidelines and he was a model teammate. And that's the reason why it's so easy to root for a guy. So regardless if you like him as a quarterback, feel like he the best choice as a quarterback, you cannot deny that Jameis Winston is a guy that is easy to root for because of the way he carries himself in the locker room, within the community. Anybody that talks to him, he interacts with him, always has something positive to say about him, and the energy that he brings and the belief in himself. I love Jameis, but he won't start unless Derek Carr gets injured, but I hope he does somewhere else to play. Mickey, the Saints fan for life. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the case. I mean, he's a backup quarterback, so that's kind of like how it works. But, yeah, I mean, pretty much. True, Jameis Winston will not play for the Saints, especially with the addition of Gruden, who has made racial comments about his players back on his watch. Well, Gruden is not a part of the Saints coaching staff. John Gruden just came there to help install the offense, the West Coast offense, and also his familiarity with Derek Carr is the reason why he's there. Like, the Saints didn't hire him. They didn't give him no contract. He just came there because the Saints asked him to come in, of course, and so they can be able to understand who Derek Carr is as a quarterback and also to help him get accustomed. I mean, you think about Derek Carr. Derek Carr under John Gruden had his best stats statistically. He completed 68% of his passes. He threw for over 70 touchdowns, only about 30 interceptions. So why wouldn't you want to call a guy like that when this guy has done his best under him? So I wouldn't put any stock into that. Just because a coach shows up. I mean, there are coaches that show up to camps all the time. There are times where teams, solicit the help of former coaches all the time, to come in, especially if they know a guy. So it has absolutely nothing to do with it, right? It has nothing to do with. Let's see, Rinse Game, hit the like button and subscribe to the SOTS on your way in. Yeah, Keen Arthur, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Please subscribe if you have not already and hit the like button. I love bro as a person, but do not either you, that guy, or not been in the league 10 years and still nothing to show for it. Just be a backup, bro. Look, this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to see how I can word this. What can you possibly say in a Saints uniform this guy has done for you to just say wholeheartedly like he's a backup quarterback? It's not like Jameis Winston got benched because he was trash. The guy has been dealing with injuries. Like, it's unfortunate. That, to me, it's almost like, and people might think that I'm crazy about this, it's like somebody saying to me, Michael Thomas ain't good enough because Michael Thomas has been hurt over the last 3 years. Now, some people would say, well, Michael Thomas has proven that he's a really good wide receiver. He won Offensive Player of the Year, right? But Jameis Winston has done some really good things in a Saints uniform that can make a compelling argument that if he stays healthy and, like the offensive line continues to improve, he can be better. Like, people can make an argument about that, whether people want to accept it or not. The reality is we have accepted that Jameis Winston is not a good quarterback because of the narrative that has been put out about him, about the constant thought of Jameis Winston just makes people laugh and chuckle. And it's kind of like, man, it's kind of like dating the lame guy or dating the girl that everybody don't consider as cool, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of what it is. Like, nobody wants to date the lame, right? Everybody laughing and making fun of him. That make me look bad, right? That's a representation of me. I'm a Saints fan, so it's a representation of me. What this dude has done in the Saints uniform to me can make a compelling argument that he does deserve to be a starter. He does deserve to be a starter. You may not like the guy, but I think a lot of the narrative is almost like it's kind of hard for you to turn off what you already know about a person. It's like when a person like tries to bring on a change, but you only remember them for being rootless and dirty and conniving, right? It's kind of, even though that person is a completely different person, you can't erase the thought of what that person has done in the past. A lot of what we have with Jameis Winston is what he has done in the past. And when he ends up doing something in the present that is reminiscent of the past, we just automatically just throw him away because we were all ready to throw him away anyway. It's basically just how it works. The guy was injured, so he never really had a full opportunity and a true opportunity, seriously, to show what he has. And then this is another thing. Now, some people say, well, what happened at the beginning of the season? If you go back and look at 2022, take a look at it. I get Joe Burrow. We all love Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow in his first game of the season threw 4 interceptions. The next week, he threw 2 interceptions. So he started the season with 6. Now, what happens if Joe Burrow would have threw 4 interceptions and then threw 2 and would have had 6 and then end up getting hurt? Then everybody would have been like, man, he fell off a cliff. Man, he ain't good enough. Man, I guess that was just an outlier about that Super Bowl. Like, how you cannot put that bow on this dude when he did not have an opportunity to finish an entire season. In 2021, he went 5-2 as a starter. Regardless of how you want to say it, well, the defense did this, the offense did that, whatever. He was 5-2 as a starter. Because I don't want to hear this, because when we're trying to make compelling arguments, we are always trying to use the quarterback being a starter and his record to validate what we're talking about. So we cannot have it both ways. Regardless of how you want to look at it, the guy started the season 5-2, right? So if you're starting the season 5-2 with 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, guess what? That shows you that there was promise there. So the following year, he ends up, getting hurt, having a back injury, didn't finish the full season. So who's to say that even if he started the season off rough, the offense started getting it together, and the next thing you know, the offense is helping win games. They're out there balling out. Who's to say that? So for me to say that, oh, the dude ain't good enough because, what are you basing this on? What are you basing it on? You're basing it on what? Not even half a season, 20% of a season. I can't say that. I cannot accept that. And I won't accept that. You can't, man, come on, man. That's like somebody that's brand new comes to a job and they, you teaching them and stuff like that. The next thing you know, okay, they do a little bit of the work and then all of a sudden, they don't know how to do the other part. So you man, you know what? You ain't good enough to do the job. You just started the job. So how you know? How you know how this going to end up? He might have good qualities right here, or she might have good qualities right here, and she probably be able to absorb this information right here, and it's beneficial to her today, but that's not an indication of how they're going to perform that job. Everybody to me who is just quick to just write this guy off and say he's not good enough to be a starting quarterback, you already had that in your mind. You already looked at this dude as not being good enough or less than. Because what are you basing this on? The guy did not finish an entire season as the Saints starting quarterback. And neither one of the seasons where he was appointed the starter. Now, if you want to make an argument about, where the injuries might, they're playing a role, then maybe you can have an argument. But to say, this guy isn't good enough. Based on what? Based on what? What are you basing this on? You're basing it on what he did in Tampa. That's the only logical explanation. There is no logical explanation. So that's my whole point. Like, you already were ready to rest the judgment on this dude because you already had this mind frame about him before he got to the Saints. So there it is. That's how I feel about this. In Tampa, he didn't have a supporting cast of offense. I'm not even getting into the whole Tampa situation. All I'm saying is, I'm not even going to get into why and all that kind of stuff there because I ain't trying to go down that rabbit hole. All I'm saying is, when Jameis Winston got to the New Orleans Saints, you had people that were already ready to write this dude off because of what he did in Tampa, how people perceived him, how people looked at him, how the media laughed at him, made fun of him, talked about his faces, eating the W's. Once again, it is the guy who is dating the lame girl or the lame girl. I mean, the girl dating the lame guy. That's what it is. Nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to attach themselves to anything that is considered lame, boring, or dull, or not good enough. And that's what people were ready to write this dude off. The first line of trouble that they saw, they were ready to write this dude off because they wanted to be true. They wanted it to be truthful in their conviction, right? They wanted it to be true, truthful, like, but at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. People saying they can't hear me. Oh, can y'all hear me? Okay. I don't know what that's about. I'm about to say, I'm saying I don't have myself muted or anything like that. So I apologize if you can't hear me. Can y'all hear me? I'm waiting till somebody, tell me if y'all can hear me or not. All right, I'm seeing people saying they can actually hear what I'm saying. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Okay. All right. As long as y'all can hear me. All right, we'll read a few more of these comments. I said, people only remember the dirty part, even though you have cleansed and washed by God 3 times. That's the thing. People are always quick to bring up your transgressions. I don't know if that's to keep you humble or make themselves feel like, I don't know, man. I don't know what it is. I don't get it. Like, sometimes I feel like people are quick to bring up people's shortcoming because maybe they got some stuff that they need to work on. And nobody wants to feel like another person has elevated past them or reached a certain point in their life where they feel like they can't attain. But all I know is, in a Saints uniform, you cannot convince me that you have seen enough out of this dude to say he ain't a starter. Because his first time as a starter, getting the starting job, winning the competition over Taysom Hill, he was 5-2 as a starter, right? The second year where he was a starter, all I know is the guy that we talk about all the time not being good enough as a wide receiver, Traquan Smith, had 100 yards receiving. All I know is Chris Olave, the guy that we're looking at as to a point, the next number one receiver, had almost 200 yards against the Carolina Panthers in that game and would have had 200 yards if he would have held on to a football on a couple deep passes that Jameis threw to him. I'm just saying. All I'm saying is the starting year, the year that he first started back in 2021, he had 5'7", 165-pound Deontay Harris at the time out there being a leading receiver and almost close to 1,000 yards. He had the shortest guy on the team, as the number one deep threat and almost in the entire NFL. He had Marquez Callaway out there looking like, like he was trying to be like Odell Beckham or something, catching one-hand snags and catching balls in traffic. You cannot be trash. You cannot be garbage when you're out there using guys that we look at as being expendable. And he has those guys looking like they just some top-tier talent. You got to take that into consideration, folks. You got to take that in consideration as well. Some people, like there's some talent there. There's some talent there. That's all I can say. Jameis was blackballed necessarily this offseason. There were several teams interested in signing him, but the Saints told him he had to forego that to get a guaranteed offer from NOLA. I don't know. I mean, he's still under contract for the New Orleans Saints. So teams technically couldn't talk to him because that's considered tampering, right? Excuse me. That's considered tampering if you were to do that. So teams couldn't really talk to him. And you can't, I don't know if you can, I don't think you can talk to the rep. I think you can talk to the representative, but not the actual person. Or there might be a rule that you can't even talk to the representation. I gotta ask somebody about that. But you can't talk to a player that's already under contract. So Jameis loved this team, no other question about it. Yeah, he does. If he didn't, he wouldn't been here. Somebody said, "Where's nephew?" He over here. He in the room. Yeah, he over here, in the corner over there on his phone. Yeah, let's see. It says, right, TJ says, to be honest, when he was on the Bucks, I feel victim to the media, but seeing him interact during Saints media day, I'm behind him. How rare is it to have a quarterback who grew up a Saints fan and want to be here? All I'm saying is, you can look towards the future and be excited about Derek Carr being a quarterback. But what I won't accept is people just up here just acting like this man like the worst thing since Stoney Case or something. Like I don't get it. Like the dude is a good quarterback. And just because, like Dennis Allen wanted to go in a different direction and he wanted to appoint his guy once again is not an indication that Jameis Winston is not good enough. Like maybe from what I've seen and what I'm witnessing when it comes to Dennis Allen, and I could be wrong, Dennis Allen is trying to go with more of things that are considered a sure thing and things that he feel like can kind of, win in spite of certain situations. Like to me, it's like the Michael Jordan effect to me. Like, you ain't got to coach Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, like, give him the ball, let Michael Jordan go out there. Like, I'm being dead serious. One of the things I used to do growing up, I used to watch the Chicago Bulls in the 90s, right? If you're from New Orleans, you had Cox Cable. You turned to channel 18, it was WGN. It was a station that was based out of Chicago, and they played all of the Chicago Bulls home games. And there were times where Michael Jordan would go out there, score about 45, 50 points. And I'm dead serious. You literally can see Phil Jackson look like he about to doze off on the bench, holding a Diet Coke in his hand, right? And I used to find it hilarious because I found it hilarious because it's like, man, this dude got the easiest job in the world, right? Because he has like this elite talent that's not going to let them lose many games. Right. And he feels so comfortable about it, makes him fall asleep. I feel like there are some coaches out there that can take mediocre, average players and get the best out of them. Right. But you got to coach them up. And then there's some guys who can take those average players and they're going to be just that. Right. And they need elite top tier talent to be able to overcompensate for who they are. Like, seriously, at this particular time, and I could be wrong, but Dennis Allen is looking mediocre, average. I'm not saying he's going to always be that way, but that's the way he's looking. And right now, I just feel like he can't do what Sean Payton could do with some of the players that he has picked up throughout the years. I don't feel like he can. I feel like he has to go out here and get guys that are more of a finished book. I feel like with Jameis Winston can be a good, solid starting quarterback, but I also feel like he has to have a guy who is offensive minded, like Sean Payton, like Sean McVay, like some of these other coaches out here that can kind of reel him in and help him understand and see the field and watch the tape with him and break down film and also come up with these offensive concepts to make him feel more comfortable, constantly coaching him. I mean, one of the biggest issues that the Raiders had last season with Derek Carr is the fact that he was going rogue when it came to some of the offensive plays. He wasn't listening to Josh McDaniel because he felt like maybe this play with Josh McDaniel you're talking about ain't helping, right? So I'm about to call these plays. I'm about to go rogue, and I'm about to go out here and I'm about to put up these points. And I just think that sometimes, coaches need somebody like that. I don't think I honestly feel that way, and I think that is the reason why you probably end up getting a guy like a Derek Carr on the team. They want to go with guys that are more of a sure thing versus a guy that they have to like kind of constantly teach, and I just think that's the reason why Andy Dalton was the guy they constantly brought out there every single week, because I feel like it was more easier than maybe coaching a guy like Jameis Winston. And that's not a knock on him. I just think that some of those other guys are going to do exactly what they're going to do. They're not going to do too much. Right? They're going to do the bare minimum, right? They're not going to shock you or anything like that, But when it comes to Derek Carr, there's some times where he might do that, but I just feel like for the most part, if you look at his numbers statistically and what he's done in a Raiders uniform, I think that's the reason why, they selected him, because they feel like when it comes to him, if he go rogue, it's more likely going to end up being something positive versus Jameis Winston, who might do something they are probably nervous about. But that's that effect that I'm talking about. Things that they've done in the past and not feeling like they got the right coaches on the staff to be able to bring the best out of them. I mean, I could be wrong, but hey, I know one thing, TJ, DA better not find himself in a situation like any given Sunday when Willie Beeman was ignored till the starter went down. He'll be like, nah, don't try to be my friend now. Well, I don't think that's the case. I think that right now, Keen Arthur, Jameis understands where he's at as a quarterback and what the team sees him as right now. I didn't say what Jameis sees himself as. I say what the team sees him as. So if Derek Carr was to go down, and I'm knocking on wood when I say that because I don't want Derek Carr to go down, Jameis will come in. I don't think there'll be any hiccups or issues or anything like that. At the start of 2021, Locked On Saints says Jameis was supposed to start versus Tampa. He was not supposed to start or was supposed to start? Because if I can remember, he did start in that game. Wait a minute. Wait. No, I'm thinking about 2022. You said at the start of 2021, Locked On Saints said Jameis was supposed to start versus Tampa. What game are we talking about here? We talking about the Halloween game, or we talking about like one of these other games? Like, I need more context about that, Alpha. So if you can expound on that just a little bit more, so I can get a little bit of clarity. I believe in Jameis. I want him to be our quarterback, but I would bet my left ovary that DA is going to cut him before the season starts. I don't think he's gonna get cut. No, I don't think that. I don't think they would go to the lengths they did to kind of restructure the deal and do all these different things if they just gonna cut him. I think that if anything, you would possibly see. I see a trade scenario before I see a cut. Yep, he's got love. Dennis Allen is super trash as a head coach. Yes, I said it. Where is Curry? Let's see. I did watch Bulls games too. Yeah, I mean, look, I used to watch those Bull games, and like I said, man, Phil Jackson would sleep. Phil Jackson would sleep over there on the bench, man. People constantly bring up old statistics that they want to use to make him seem like he's bad, like the 30 for 30 season. However, they never speak on the coaching carousel, bad defenses, etc. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, people use stats to validate their point, and they use stats to minimize another person's point. Like, so I don't get it, man. All I know is in a Saints uniform, I have not seen enough bad things from Jameis Winston to say that this dude ain't good enough to be a starter in the league. DA always going to be average, TJ. I'm the Michael B. Jordan of my church league. Michael B. Jordan? I can believe that. And you didn't say Michael J. Jordan. You said Michael B. Yeah, I can believe that. You know what I mean? Let's see. What starting quarterback that has ever done what Jameis doing right now is unprecedented. He will play in the league. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the fact I wrote an article about this earlier today. You can check out on gumbopodsports.com. And I talked about that. I said it's very rare that you see a guy who would be willing to take a chance on himself like that when he knows in his heart that he still has what it takes to be a starting quarterback, and that shows the selflessness of this guy. I say selfishness, selfless. Like the guy is willing to put the team first over himself. So, I mean, regardless to how you may feel about him, you got to have some level of respect for Jameis Winston for being willing to do what he has done. So I got respect for him. Exactly, Tank. I was thinking the same thing when they brought this up, when Carr came on. Let's see, Green Bay or Miami would be a good fit for Jameis Winston. Yeah, Green Bay, yeah, I agree with that. Miami, yeah, that would probably be a real good spot for him too. That's not bad. I mean, being a solid, backup for Tua, Tua has dealt with some injuries and stuff like that. So to say that, that he's going to be able to play an entire season, that's kind of wishful thinking, which I hope he does, man, because, some of those concussions he endured, it didn't look good, Jameis basically told y'all he's getting himself fully healthy and he is not going to rush it. That's why he signed for a 1-year deal. He will get a chance to start somewhere once the season is over. Well, Lamont, I'll tell you this. Even if that is the case, right? If Jameis Winston was to get traded to, let's just say, somebody mentioned it, the Green Bay Packers, he has an opportunity to start. You really feel like he will go in and say, you know what? I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to. I'm going to start for the Green Bay Packers. I think I'm just going to back this team up. Honestly, that probably would help him even more. Because if he was to go out to another team and he goes out there and he performs really well, that would put him out there as a top free agent going into 2024. Right? So, we've seen this before. We've seen guys who have had question marks get opportunities, play well, and the next thing you know, they get paid. We saw it with Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater got the opportunity to play in 5 games, won those 5s, and got himself $60 million in Carolina. Now, it didn't pan out in Carolina, but he still ended up getting himself paid. Geno Smith, all those years backing up quarterbacks, got his opportunity to be a starter, helped the Seattle Seahawks hit the playoffs. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was comeback player of the year. So there are other players out here, that they get these opportunities and they perform really well and they open themselves up for bigger paydays. Once again, like Geno Smith. So there it is. Did y'all watch Dennis Allen's last interview? Might help y'all see how much DA values him. Not saying he should be a starter, but DA understands injuries happen. Winston is the best backup in the NFL. I assume that's what you're saying. Look, I must say this. The last interview that I seen from Dennis Allen, that's what you want to see from a coach. Tough criticism. He talked about how the team looked like they was off for 4 days, and he was willing to talk about some of the bad things that he saw, and he felt like practice could have been better. Those are the type of things that you want to see. That's the type of stuff you want to hear for the most part. Holding guys accountable, not just, I don't want to, I don't want to make them upset. Call it out. And if these guys have any pride, they will listen to that. Heed that, I don't want to say advice, but listen to what he's saying and come out there and perform and play better again. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. So I actually liked what I heard from Dennis Allen in the last interview. I must admit that. But I think he has a level of respect for Jameis Winston. I just think that once again, Dennis Allen wants to go down. If he says he's going down, he won't go down his way. And I have no problem with that. TJ Alante is getting snaps in the slot in camp. Do you like this, or do you prefer he stays on the outside? The kid is versatile. I think that you hit the nail on the head right there when you said he's versatile. So I have no problem with him playing in the slot. I think the biggest issue that the Saints faced throughout the years is you have some guys that were good in the slot. If a guy gets hurt on the outside, he moves from the slot to the outside. He's not good enough or fast enough to be able to run with guys on the outside. When you have guys that are versatile, guys that can move around, guys that can do a multifaceted of things, it makes your defense a little bit more formidable. And, I like that. I have no problem with that because we know that he can play on the outside if necessary. So if he's playing in the slot, that tells you that, they value him and they want to get him on the field in some capacity. A healthy Jameis better than half the starting quarterbacks in the league right now. That I can admit. That is true. Looking at the NFC, the conference that the Saints is in, it's not many quarterbacks that you can just sit up here and just say, man, I think he can be a better starting quarterback than Jameis Winston. I mean, not too many quarterbacks in the NFC are very, very good. Jameis has leadership skills and a big heart. Somebody says, where nephew? He right here. He behind me. He been wanting to get on camera for the last me walking around here. You want to get on camera? I say, grab a chair. Grab a chair then. Says racial issues faced by black quarterbacks. Look, I'm sorry about this, man. Yes, have there been racial issues when it came to quarterbacks? Absolutely. But black quarterbacks have never been in a better position than what they have been or what they're in right now. Like, it's only so many times like we can continue to use that narrative over and over again to try to validate why it can't always be because the guy's black. It can't always be that. We seen 2 African-American quarterbacks play in the Super Bowl. We see, regardless of if you like them or not, we seen Deshaun Watson get paid over $200 million in guaranteed money. We just seen Lamar Jackson get paid out there in Baltimore. So we seen Geno Smith get paid out there in Seattle. So when it comes to the state of the African-American quarterback, it ain't never been in a better state because the next, decade and a half, you're going to have African-American quarterbacks being among the top quarterbacks in the league. As a matter of fact, in the last NFL draft, the first 3 quarterbacks taken off the board were African-American quarterbacks. So it's like, to me, I understand that there has been a stigma, there's been negativity, but sometimes like we have to understand and appreciate the progress that is being made, right? Don't get me wrong. There are times when, that rears its ugly head, but when you look at the state of the African-American quarterback in the National Football League right now, you got to be pretty proud of what you're actually seeing. I am. Man, last interview I saw DA, he said his famous line, got to clean some stuff up. Hey, it was funny, man. It was funny because I don't care what anybody says. They watching what we say because the first interview that he said, he was about to say it got a lot of things we got to clean up, but he caught himself, and I can't remember exactly what he said. Go to the first interview that he did. The first interview, like right after, I think it was the first practice that they had. Go back and watch that and tell me that he was not trying to fight back saying the term, we got to clean something up. But he said it he said it this past interview. But in the first one, he definitely was about to say it and he caught himself. I was like, yeah, I said somebody telling him something. I don't know if he's listening, but I mean, somebody is. TJ, how you doing? In my opinion, we have 2 starting quarterbacks. Have heard some say trade Jameis, but why it will weaken our quarterback room and have the Saints scrambling to find a capable backup. I agree with that. I agree with that. That's why, when I don't know exactly who said this, when someone said that Jameis might get cut, that's why I say I don't see that happening. The worst case scenario I can see is him getting traded. But like you said, why would you want to trade that, especially since we have seen the Saints have been dealing with issues at the quarterback position and guys staying healthy. Now, Derek Carr has a really good track record of staying healthy, but why? You know what I'm saying? Why would you want to go down that rabbit hole again and be scrounging up trying to find a quarterback that can be good enough if your starting quarterback goes down? DA needs to call out his defense when they were playing bad. Yeah, but man, we'll see. I am seeing a little bit of a difference in Dennis Allen. I think it's the comfortability of him being a head coach and having guys that understand their role. They know their role. So we'll see. We'll see how this season transpires. I think Adebo and Taylor will both move around in the defensive backfield. Well, it's always good to have versatile individuals. Have the idiots that say Gruden said racial comments about his players show those emails. Tell us what he said, because obviously you don't know what you're talking about. I wasn't there. I didn't. All I know is there was a lot of racial rhetoric that was, said, or what was reported that was said in those emails. That I can say. I wasn't there. I ain't read the emails personally. Everything that I seen was more like what was said in the emails. But if he did say that, I will say this. I can understand why people are upset. But back to what I was saying originally, for people to really just jump out of the window and say stuff like, man, I ain't never watching the team no more, or the Saints, I ain't named my team no more, I quit. Like all these people that just fake outraged about every situation, like get real. Like all these people that get upset about social issues, but do absolutely nothing behind the scenes for the advancement of improving social issues, gets no respect from me. I still can't believe Tampa goofy self trying to get Jameis, but good. They don't, and we wouldn't. We weren't stuck with Andy as a backup. Well, those days are over, man. Andy Dalton is in Carolina, and Jameis is still with the Saints. I'm not going into that. Let's see. Jameis has always had the ability and talent. He was with Coach Payton, but for whatever reason, wanted to do something else. Jameis knows he can lead a team. I think he can. But like I said, I think it has a lot to do with Dennis Allen want to do it his way. I'm going to continue to say that. I don't think it's a knock on Jameis. I just think that he wants to get the guys that he wants in the building. I thought that about Jameis' situation too, but I realized Jameis was injured still once they said he was healthy enough to play, so they kept him out. Once again, I just think that it was more about, I think it was less about the injury and more about what they felt about Andy Dalton. But if you look at it in hindsight, like I don't say in hindsight, but when you look at it, yeah, when you look at it, Jameis Winston made those guys around him look better than what they actually was. All I know is those guys didn't get those opportunities and they didn't play the way that they did after he went down. Stop making it a black or white thing. It's a statistic. The boy is the worst in damn near every category, but one, how the hell you expect to bounce back from Drew to this? He's not the worst in every statistical category. And once again, like, what has he done in a Saints uniform, that can convince you of that? Everything that basically what you're saying right now is paid for by the fine folks of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. Like you cannot tell me seriously, and I mean this with everything that I have. If you watching Jameis Winston and you're seeing some of the things that he's doing, but then all of a sudden, like he makes a mistake and you amplify that, you basically getting your narrative from Tampa because you were waiting for him to make a mistake to validate how you feel about him. And the thing about it is, it's not even really your thoughts. Like seriously, you cannot possibly look at this dude in a Saints uniform and feel like you have fully grasped the entire Jameis Winston experience, because for the most part, he was pretty decent with the Saints. And then also, here's the thing. There will never be another Drew Brees. So stop looking for him. Stop looking for Drew Brees. Like that's Saints fans' problem right there. Everybody's trying to look for Drew Brees. Everybody hoping that the next person that comes in looks like Drew Brees, resembles Drew Brees, the height of Drew Brees, the arm of Drew Brees, the accuracy of Drew Brees. Everybody's comparing him to Drew Brees. Drew Brees has not played football in going on 3 years. He is no longer the New Orleans Saints quarterback. It was a great moment. It was a great time. Offense was on point. It was good to beat on your chest and have a sense of pride about the team. But guess what? The dude ain't coming back. He ain't coming back. So why are we still out here talking about, man, what Drew did, man, when Drew was here? And like, yeah, when he was here, he was a beast. The reason why we celebrate him and admire him and put him on the Mount Rushmore of New Orleans Saints players. He's the greatest New Orleans Saint of all time, period. But he ain't coming back. So why are we still looking for him? And guess what, folks? There are so many other quarterbacks that are in the league that have been great, who has left their team, retired, traded, or what have you, and a team is going through the same issues. But guess what? You ain't going to get that person back. We need to start looking towards the future, okay? If you're comparing Derek Carr to Drew Brees, if you're comparing Jameis Winston to Drew Brees, none of them cats going to measure up because Drew Brees is a surefire Hall of Famer who is second all-time in passing yards, second all-time in passing touchdowns, number one in completion percentage. Like, give me a freaking break. Like, you're not going to find anybody like that right now. Like, you might be able to fall butt backwards into, like, prosperity like the Indianapolis Colts did, like going from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. But every team ain't going to do that. Ask the Miami Dolphins. Ask the Denver Broncos. Ask some of these teams who had legendary deity-type figures at quarterback and couldn't find another one for the next 20 years. Another one, the Buffalo Bills and Jim Kelly. Look how long it took them to find Josh Allen. So why are we still up here looking at him? Of course, if you're comparing these guys to Drew Brees, these guys will never measure up. And if you're comparing the statistics of Drew Brees to any one of these guys, it's just not fair. So that's my whole point. And honestly, man, like if you're talking about Jameis Winston and what he has done, and you're using, he ain't never been a good quarterback, it's because you took the narrative from Tampa and you just try to make it your own. I mean, honestly, man, there are quarterbacks that go to teams all the time and they get second opportunities and they perform. And a lot of the times where they fail is because they go to situations that is not good for them. It's not beneficial to them. They don't have the right coaches around them. They don't have the right guys to reel them in. They're not finding coaches that are trying to come up with plays that help their skill set and make them better. It's just amazing to me how NFL fans are quick to just throw guys away because they're not what they want them to be right off the bat. Like, if you're a top 5 team, right? You're picking in a draft in the top 5. 9 times out of 10, you suck. Why don't people understand that? 9 times out of 10, you suck. So if you're picking number 1 overall, you stink. Period. Unless like a team just made like a heck of a deal and picking in the top 5, like more than likely you stink. So why is it that we can't understand situations where guys go to bad teams, they have bad coaching around them, bad front office, bad players, instability, and we just automatic, man, that dude ain't good enough. And then the next thing you know, he goes to a team where a guy can kind of reel him in, and the next thing you know, he's getting better. And I think a lot of the guys don't end up getting better is because they've been told for years and years and years that they stink. And these organizations have heard this. And at the end of the day, we know how this thing works. Football is a business. It's about putting behinds in seats. It's about people putting on the memorabilia. It's about people putting on the jerseys and the hats and all that kind of stuff there. So if the media is constantly berating and bashing a guy and talking about him and saying he sucks and saying he stinks and saying that he can't be fixed and saying that regardless to who the coach is, he's still going to be bad, what do you think the organization is going to do? They're not going to be willing to just bring that guy in because regardless, they still listen to the fan base. They still read the pulse of the fan base. Now, it don't affect everything that they do. But if they feel like bringing a guy in who has that reputation of not being good, they're not going to put that guy at the forefront of their organization. And that guy may have the opportunity to be able to make your organization better. But he'll never get that opportunity because everybody just talking about how bad the garbage stinks as soon as the guy shows up. So I just don't get it. I don't get it. I know that there are some players out there that are looked at and will not be fixed. They're unfixable. But there are times where guys need opportunities and they go to better situations. You can get the best out of those guys. They'll play better. Guys just don't fall off the face of the earth. Like once the coordinator leaves, like that coordinator meant something to those guys. The defensive coordinator meant something to those guys. That's just call a spade here. I've been already been hearing how Carr is looking like Brees in training camp. Yep, everything give him compared to Brees. Man, it's looking like a Brees training camp. He looks like Brees in the pocket. Look, somebody mirroring Brees. Like, I think they had like a video of him up, and I guess like he threw a pass, and it was like, how Drew Brees, like he throws the ball, and then he goes to second and third read still, like kind of, his little training regimen. But I mean, like, man, why are we still like looking for Brees? Like, you ain't finding that. Like, seriously, you ain't finding that. I mean, even if Derek Carr ends up panning out, he would not be Drew Brees. He not. Now, if you put Carr first 9 year stats up to Brees, they honestly look similar. I'm just saying. They are similar when it comes to like, some of the completion percentages and stuff like that, but he is not Drew Brees at all. Like, Drew Brees has been to regardless of how it turns out, Drew Brees have had more playoff appearances, more pros. He's been offensive player of the year. Like, even though, like I said, you can talk about their completion percentages. And yes, there are some things, and I've done a show about this. I've put their stats up against one another. So I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here. I'm not naive to the fact that I, look at Derek Carr stats and Drew Brees stats and they look identical. But that doesn't make him Drew Brees. There are some things that Drew Brees has done that, Derek Carr can only dream of. Seriously. Perfect example is Geno Smith. He ain't right back. Let's see, Ryan, if you get all your guys and flop, I want DA out of here like a cold cup or the 112 degree New Orleans day. Finished with my doctor's appointment, all is well. Well, shouts out to you, Jerry. Glad to hear that, man. I did see Carr do that in his last practice. Yeah. I don't know. TJ, you know what they say. Everybody looks great in a layup line. Nice to hear, but I'm not impressed. Yeah, I'm not impressed. Look, play a game and then we can start talking, And I'm not saying that the guy gonna stink. Like, I like Derek Carr. Like, I do. Y'all know I like Derek Carr. I do. I did a whole show about this. I think I ticked a lot of people off because of the show that I had. But all I'm saying is, let these guys run their race. I seen Jake Hayner, have an interview. Sexy Jake Hayner, HBJ, Heartbreak Jake. I seen him have a interview, and people were like, people are talking about your 70% completion percentage around your Drew Brees, and it's like he took offense to that. And people was like, why would he take offense to that? Because these guys want to be their own person. They want to be their own person. Like, it's good that you compare them to a legendary figure, but they don't want to be that guy. They want to create their own path. Not waiting for him to fail, TJ, hoping and praying for him to fail. Yep. People want to be right so bad that they're willing to watch somebody fail just to, like, willing to watch their team burn. And watch the ashes, as they just flicker up into the sky, like, just to be right. Like, man, believe it or not, when I do these shows, man, and I'm being critical of individuals, like I be hoping that I'm wrong. I'm hoping that I can more times than not, believe it or not, that people come back and be like, man, TJ, you remember when you said this about, like, I don't want to be right about talking about a guy being bad or having a bad performance. Like I don't feel like that validate. Like, I don't feel like telling people, oh, you know what I'm saying, I'm right about this situation validates me as a podcaster or onlooker of the team. I don't, you know, because that's not what I'm going after. Like we put things into the air, we spitball things, we throw it at the wall, hope that it sticks. And if it does stick, fine. But if it doesn't, you know, look, if it means that it's hurting the team by me being right, I'd rather be wrong. I'm serious. Like, if it's hurting the team, me being right, I'd rather be wrong. I'd rather sit on this show and be so incorrect about this team and they just winning all the time than me being right and they just underperforming. I that's the way I feel about this. Carr's going to put himself right into around the 10th, 11th spot for quarterbacks this year. That's not bad at all with the defense. Look, you don't need to be number one quarterback in the league. Like, just have solid quarterback play combined with, you know, solid defensive play and take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves, and you'll find yourself in the postseason. But if you don't do that, then, you know, next thing you know, you're going to find yourself on the outside looking in, is where we don't want. Do you think John Gruden will be beneficial to Carr and the Saints? As a what? As a consultant? You know, look, I'm going to put it to you like this. What John Gruden did, if he didn't do these things and he just so happened to be on the street, do I feel like he would be beneficial to the Saints and Derek Carr? Absolutely. 100%. Right? But it's about, well, how, you know, it's about the optics of the thing, right? It's going to come with criticism. It's going to come with backlash if the Saints put this man on their coaching staff. Now, what the Saints, I will say this, the Saints do a really good job at damage control because the Saints don't really allow a lot of people in there. Like, they don't. Like, most of the people that cover the Saints, y'all already know them. Like, you don't really see too. Like, if you go, I'm serious. Like, if you go to like a Philadelphia Eagles training camp, if you go to a Washington Commanders training camp, you can have like people that probably, you know, do stuff like this, or, you know, have their own little publications and stuff like that. You'll probably see people from all different walks of life, including the DC media. The Saints, they got their same, you know, they got their same little group of individuals right there. So they kind of, you know, you don't really see people like doing too much outside of the box, like controversial takes or doing like controversial, right? You don't really see too much of that. So they, you know, they kind of keep that kind of stuff under wraps. Like, every now and then, like, you'll hear something. Like, and no disrespect to anybody, but I feel like there's only a few people out there in the middle of any situation that'll be willing to call out the team for doing certain things. And we all know who they are. We all know who they are. I mean, I ain't about to call no names, but that's just the reality of it. The Saints, they have like a little small little group, you know what I'm saying, of those members of the media. And they do a really good job at keeping things in the house. Like, you don't really hear too much stuff about the Saints. You don't. Like when it comes to the Jets, when it comes to the Giants, when it comes to the Cowboys, when it comes to the Eagles, like some of these big name, big media market teams, you hear more because there's way more leaks in the boat. You don't really see too many leaks in the boat. So if they were to hire him, I don't feel like you'll get that much backlash. Like, seriously, I don't feel like you'll get that much backlash. People, they'll let you talk about it the way that they do PR. You know, I don't think anything gonna really come of it, because it's gonna get to a point where it'll make you feel crazy for even asking them that question. And if, you know, you don't have a whole bunch of people that's around trying to follow this up, you know, next thing you know, like, nobody ain't gonna care eventually. But yeah, honestly, I feel like if if the Saints were to hire him, yeah, I don't feel like, I don't feel like anything will really come of it like that. I hope we put it all together this year. It's like when we fix one area of the team, the other side regresses. Alfred, thank you very much for the $4.99. Very reluctant. Hopefully that's not the case. Let's see. Is DA going to get another pass if we have another injury-riddled season? No, I don't think so. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? TJ, where does A.T. Perry fit if we sign Renfro or D-Hop? Shoot, matter of fact, where would Mike T fit if D-Hop comes? They play the same role as X. I don't know where he would fit. Probably on the practice squad, maybe, which this may sound crazy, but that's why I look at him right now. Like, he hasn't done anything for me to just sit up here and just say, oh, he deserves a starting spot or be a part of the starting or wide receiver rotation. Like, he ain't done nothing. So right now, I feel like he on the outside looking in. So if you get Hunter Renfro, man, he on the practice squad. TJ, you just keep keeping it real and tell it like it is. Who that? Man, you thank you very much. Like, I'm just being 100. Like, there's some teams out there. I mean, there's a couple more teams that I can name, that I have opportunity. I mean, to me, the Colts are another team. They kind of like close knit. Kansas City, another team. They close knit. Green Bay, another team. They close knit. You're not going to find things out because you know everybody. Like, you go to, like, I'm serious. You go to a Philadelphia Eagles press conference, and you got the Philadelphia Inquirer, you got all these other, like main publications out of Philly, but then you have like some other people up in there, that got some media credentials as well, and they will grill anybody, and the team will allow them to do so, and they will take that information, they will give it to mainstream, and they'll talk about it ad nauseum on some of your favorite sports shows, but for the smaller market teams, everybody. They know you, you know them, they have understanding, whatever. So that's the way I look at it. But so do I feel like if the Saints were to hire John Gruden, they have the team in order to kind of keep it under wraps? Absolutely. No doubt about it. No disrespect to anybody, but the way that the Saints are structured, absolutely. Family, how can you call yourself a Saints fan and want the team to have another horrible season? Fair weather, fan club member, bandwagon jumper, are really funny as hell. Go get another team. Damn. Let them know, keeping it real. Like, I don't know if people want the Saints to fail. I think it's more so like people frustrated, man. People frustrated because they wanted this team to get back to winning consistently. Like, you got a lot of Saints fans that aren't used to being in this situation. Like, seriously, I say that all the time. If you're like in your 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, all you know for the most part is the Saints being like one of the top teams in the league. Like, if you're my age, I'm 36, you remember when the Saints were very good. Right? So some people don't know what it feels like. And I have to say, even though I do know what it feels like when the team has been bad, that doesn't mean I want to go back to it as well. But I think people just want this team to be successful. Let's see. Hit the like button. This man working hard than a Hebrew slave with this podcast. I don't mean to laugh. Mario, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Says they too young to remember the bad old days. I don't want to remember the bad old days, but I do. Keynote said, TJ, are you concerned about our pass rush? Nah, not really. I'm not concerned about it. It is what it is at this particular point. It only can go up from here, right, Keynote? I mean, it's been stagnant over the last couple of years anyway, so only can go up from here, right? And I think that's pretty much it, man. But my final thought is very, very simple. When it comes to Jameis Winston, he definitely deserves to be a starting quarterback in the league. And I hope this man gets an opportunity to show what he can do. I hope that the press clippings and the rhetoric that has been said about this guy doesn't prohibit teams from giving this man a fair opportunity. Now, if he goes there and he gets a fair opportunity and it doesn't pan out, then that's just one of those situations where you have to look at yourself and say, man, I wish I can do it, but it just wasn't meant to be. But if you go out there, you perform, and a team gives you a fair shot and you hit it out the park, then I don't think that there's a better man to be able to, that you'll be rooting for than a guy like Jameis Winston. No doubt about that. But thank y'all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast. Also, we're available on facebook.com, search Gumbo Pod Sports. Check out the Gumbo Pod Sports website, which is gumbopodsports.com. We not only do articles about the New Orleans Saints, but NFL teams in general. Wrote an article today about the Jameis Winston that you all can check out. Last night, I posted an article that I wrote about John Gruden. So much more content on the way. I created the gumbopodsports.com, quite frankly, no disrespect to anybody, but I just feel like, some sports columns, shouldn't be behind paywalls. No disrespect to anybody. That's just how I feel. I don't feel like you should withhold news or withhold information from individuals or hide your feelings or views and have people paying, for that kind of stuff. I just feel like there was a lot of that going on throughout the world of sports, and I'm not a fan of that, right? One of the reasons why I created the State of the Saints podcast, because I felt like there were more emphasis on the host and the host being right and not really listening to the people and understanding the people have something to say as well, is the reason why we have the format we do on the State of the Saints podcast. What I want to do is just create access. I don't care about money. I don't care about being monetized. I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, I feel like eventually what's happening for me in my life is going to happen for me. You know what I'm saying? That can't be stopped. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that I give everybody every part of me and give them something and an experience and content that they can all love and enjoy. And that's the reason why the Gumbo Pod Sports is out there. Not the best writer in the world, but I definitely give my opinions and thoughts. And, also, I just do my research before I write these articles. So check it out. Let me know what you all think. Make sure that you subscribe to it so you can be able to get notifications every time I post articles. Also, and check out the Gumbo Pod Sports podcast. That's available as well. Where we talk about some of the hottest topics in all the sports as well. We don't just talk about the Saints there. So make sure you check that out as well. Appreciate everybody being here. Have a great morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is, who that?
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. There's all dog around this mug. I'm good.